Eternity is not a long time. It is not any amount of time at all. Every version most of us were handed, heaven going on without end, the universe running forever in both directions, is the same mistake, only made bigger. The mistake survives because it is comfortable. A very long time is something the mind can picture, and picturing something feels almost exactly like understanding it. So eternity quietly became a promise about later, and elsewhere and after. And that has a cost, and the cost is specific. It puts the thing we are reaching for permanently in the future, which happens to be the one place it has never been. A whole life can be spent traveling toward a destination that was never a destination. Which is strange because most of us have already been there. There is a moment almost everyone has had, late, usually, and quiet, and impossible to arrange on purpose, where the sense of time simply stopped arriving. And afterwards, there was no word for it that fit. Peace was too small. Presence sounded borrowed. Eternity sounded like a sermon. Eternity is not forever. The word we translate as eternity was not, originally, a word about duration. When Indian mathematicians wrote shunya, they meant zero, and they meant it as the thing that makes every other number possible, not as the absence of one. Brahmagupta, writing in the 7th century, was the first we know of to set out rules for it. What happens when we add to nothing, subtract from nothing, treat nothing as a quantity in its own right? Before that, zero was a gap in a column. After that, it was a number. Notice what had to be true for that to work. Zero is not one of the things being counted. It is the reference point the counting happens against. Take it away and the positive numbers and the negative numbers collapse into each other, and arithmetic stops. The same word carried the philosophical meaning, and it carried it in the same direction. Not emptiness as poverty. Emptiness as ground. Buddhist philosophy arrived at it from a different road and called it shunyata. Nagarjuna, around the 2nd century, argued that nothing possesses a fixed, independent existence, that a thing is a temporary agreement between conditions, and remove the conditions and the thing goes with them. For a long time, European readers took this for pessimism, as though the claim were that nothing is real. The claim is nearly the reverse. A wave is genuinely there. It is simply not a separate object from the ocean. And the Advaita tradition pushed it as far as it goes. Not two, that is what the word says. One reality appearing as many. The Upanishads keep returning to the ocean and the wave for the same reason. You can point at a wave, measure it, name it, and still not have found anything that is not ocean. When it goes, it does not travel anywhere. It stops being shaped that way. There is an older image for the same thing, and it is the one worth keeping, because it survives translation better than any of the words do. Silence looks like the absence of sound. It is not. It is the condition for it. A note is only a note because of the quiet around it. Take the quiet away and we do not get more music. We get noise, and eventually we get nothing that can be heard at all. Silence is not what is left when sound stops. It is what sound is happening in. Every tradition that took this question seriously ended up somewhere near that image, and they did not get it from each other. What all three are describing is not a very long stretch of time. It is the thing time is happening inside of. And here the traditions say something the mind cannot easily hold, so it is worth being exact. They are not claiming that time is an illusion in the sense of a trick. They are claiming that time is a pattern, and that patterns require something to be patterned in. That claim used to be unfalsifiable. It is less unfalsifiable than it was. Because the brain has no organ for sensing time. There is no temporal equivalent of the retina, no surface where duration arrives. Every other sense has a physical instrument. Time has none, and yet the experience of it is continuous and vivid, and feels like the most basic fact about being alive. What we have instead is construction. The brain assembles the sense of duration out of signals arriving at different speeds from different systems, then presents the finished result as though it had been sitting there all along. A sound and the sight of the thing that made it will do as an example. Turning light into a nerve signal is chemical, and slow, the retina takes somewhere between 20 and 100 milliseconds over it. Turning air pressure into a nerve signal is mechanical and fast, and it is finished in 1 to 4. So the two arrive badly out of step every single time and are quietly pushed back into agreement afterwards. There is a window a couple of 100 milliseconds wide inside which events are simply ruled simultaneous, whether they were or not. Which means the now you are standing in is not a knife edge separating past from future. It has a width. The width is manufactured, and you have never once perceived the moment you were actually in. Then there is the part that does the traveling. Endel Tulving gave this a name, Chronesthesia, the awareness of being somewhere in time, of placing things before, after, or now, and of going and standing in a past or a future that is not here. It runs on the network the brain falls into when a task ends and attention comes loose. Hippocampus, midline frontal cortex, the cingulate behind them. That network is where the rehearsing happens, and the replaying and the quiet, unbidden narrating of a life. And in experienced meditators, that same network measurably quiets. Not the person, the network. What gets reported afterwards is not that time slowed down. It is that the machinery which produces before and after briefly stopped producing. That is a strange thing to be able to put an instrument on. It means whatever the traditions were pointing at is not a mood and not a metaphor. Something specific stops happening. Which leaves the obvious question, and it is a fair one. If this is the case, where would anyone actually meet it, not read about it but meet it? There is only one candidate, and it is not a special state. It is the present, and the reason is unglamorous. It is the only place that has no edges. Every past moment is a memory, which is to say a reconstruction. Every future moment is a projection, which is to say a guess. Neither is available. Only this is, and this turns out to have no measurable length. By the time the word now has been said, the thing it was pointing at has moved. So the present is not a small slice of time. It is the thing that has no duration at all, which is precisely the description we started with. A 20th century teacher, Ramana Maharshi, built a whole teaching out of a single question, and it was not a doctrine anyone was asked to believe. Who is aware of the thought? Not what is the thought, not whether it is true, who is it appearing to? Follow that honestly, and it does not terminate in another object. There is no small observer to find sitting behind the eyes. What is there is the awareness the objects are appearing in, which has no shape, no boundary, and no location, and which has never once been absent from anything that ever happened to anyone. That is the same structure again. The ground is not one of the contents. 0 is not one of the numbers. Silence is not one of the sounds. And this is the part that tends to get mishandled, so it is worth saying plainly, none of this is an achievement. There is no version of it where someone works hard and eventually earns the silence. The silence is not a reward for correct behavior, and it is not withheld from anyone who has not done the reading. It is the condition. It was operating throughout the entire period of not noticing it, exactly as the number 0 was holding arithmetic together for the several thousand years before anyone wrote a rule for it. Nothing has to be added. Something has to be seen through. There is a line from Gladiator that has outlived the film. Maximus, before the fighting starts, tells his men that what we do in life echoes in eternity. It is a good line, and almost everyone hears it the same way. Our actions will leave permanent marks, we will sound forward into an infinite future, we will be remembered. It is a promise of duration. Everything we have just walked through says it is pointing the wrong way round. We do not echo into eternity. Eternity is the silence. We are the echo. The sound does not create the quiet it rises out of. The quiet was already there. It is what made the sound audible at all, and when the sound fades, what remains is precisely what was there before it began. That is not a loss. Nothing was subtracted. And this is where it stops being an idea and starts being usable, because there is a habit almost everyone has that runs directly on the wrong version. The habit of managing the echo. Curating what people think. Protecting a reputation. Building something that will outlast us, so that the taking up of space was justified. None of that is wrong on its own. But if it is the whole account, it never resolves because echoes fade. That is what echoes do. Every impression eventually goes. And a life spent defending something whose nature is to fade is a life spent losing an argument with physics. The other reading does not ask anyone to disengage. The wave is genuinely the ocean moving. The echo is real. It only says that the part of us that is echo is not the whole of what we are, and that the rest of it was never born, and so is not waiting to be lost. Go back to the moment. The quiet ones. The one there was no word for. It was not a visit somewhere. Nothing was granted and then withdrawn. The silence you noticed for a second has not gone anywhere since. It is what this is happening inside of, and it is what your thoughts have been arising out of and dissolving back into all day, without once asking permission. Eternity is not ahead of us. It is not a reward, and it is not a destination. It is the ground you are already standing on.